everybody, Sly here, and today I'm going to be doing another reaction video, and it's the old top 5 once again, and it's titled 5 Most Reportedly Haunted Places in the US. We watched the most reportedly haunted places in the world and in the UK. So now we're going to be watching the haunted places in the US. So let's see what type of haunting places that's in the US.
Hello and welcome to All Top 5s.
Hello.
Recently we looked at 5 of the most haunted places in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And before that I covered 5 of the most haunted places in the wider world. This time, however, I'm going to look at a few well-known and not so well-known ghostly sites in the United States of America and the legends told about them.
One of them is Easter State Penitentiary.
Number 5. The Myrtles Plantation. Built in
Myrtles
1796 in the state of Louisiana,
definitely heard that before from
has traded hands between
Ghost
different
Adventures
families over the decades and centuries. Throughout this time, during which it was remodeled, many adults and children lived and died in the house there, some naturally and some actually murdered.
Ooh.
That's one official murder and several others that were rumoured. It's no wonder then that a house with such a morbid history has become known as one of America's most haunted. A status helped along greatly by the latest owner, Francis Myers, who wrote a book about the hauntings in the plantation, which is now a bed and breakfast.
Oh, I know.
There are
I know
believed
these
to be
two.
at least a dozen spirits that roam the home, with the legend of Chloe being the most well known. Chloe was allegedly a slave owned by the owners of the house in the early 1820s.
They both passed
It's
away.
thought that she was caught eavesdropping one day through a keyhole on her master's business meetings and had her ear cut off as punishment, and she wore a green turban to cover her disfigurement. As revenge, Chloe is thought to have baked a birthday cake containing highly poisonous oleander leaves to kill the whole family of 5. Now only the mother and 2 daughters ate the cake, and after their deaths Chloe was found out by the other slaves who reportedly hanged her and threw her into the Mississippi River. It's the green turbaned ghost of Chloe that people still claim to see to this day.
Wow.
Another popular legend is that of an attorney who lived on the plantation in the 1800s. His name was William Winter, and he was shot in cold blood by an unidentified assailant in 1871. He managed to stumble his way up some of the stairs searching for help until he finally bled to death on the 17th step of the staircase. His last footsteps are still heard today in ghostly fashion. Myriad other stories are told of the Myrtles Plantation, including a Native American girl haunting her burial ground, a bloodstain that refuses to be cleaned, and a mirror that is haunted by the ghosts of Chloe's victims. A really haunted house that deserves its place in my list. Number 4. Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Waverly Hills.
In 1910, this sanatorium was opened in Louisville, Kentucky to look after tuberculosis patients.
That was something. Waverly
It's known
Hills
as one of the most
Sanatorium.
haunted hospitals in the USA and has been investigated by numerous ghost hunter programs. One popular legend surrounding the Waverly Hills Sanatorium that has been told by locals for years is that of room 502. It is said that while the sanatorium was still in operation, a nurse working there at the time had been having an affair with the establishment's owner. She had fallen pregnant by him and then developed tuberculosis herself. Some people say that she was overcome by the shame and the misery and she hanged herself. Others say she was murdered, but all versions point to one thing: that it happened in room 502, and she was found
I heard about 502.
hanging by a loop of light bulb wire. A horrible death, and it's one whose victim still apparently stalks the room.
Oh, you see the figure.
Being a hospital of sorts, it's estimated that thousands of people died there, with some people calculating over 8,000 deaths. This is a very high and quite sad death rate, and it's no wonder that people claim there are so many spirits haunting the building. When the British TV series Most Haunted visited the sanatorium for 24 hours, they claim that they saw and heard many different types
picture
of paranormal
from
activity,
Ghost Adventures,
along with one crew member allegedly receiving scratches from an invisible attacker. Of course, there have been several other TV shows focusing on this location as well, often at Halloween, and a horror film, Death Tunnel, was filmed on location there. Brilliantly, there are plans in the works to redevelop the Waverly Hills Sanatorium into a 4-star hotel, focusing on clientele looking to stay in a haunted place. I'm not sure I'd stay there, however.
I wouldn't.
Do you reckon you would?
No.
Number 3. Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Bobby Mackey's, yes, this I definitely remember.
Music World has become known as the most haunted nightclub in America.
Yes.
Located in Wilder, Kentucky, there are countless urban legends.
Oh my God,
told
there's
about
so many
the
bad
property.
things.
The country
like
singer,
Bobby
Mackey, who owns Music World, is the first to claim that the site is haunted.
And he wrote a song called Johanna.
The nightclub is now built used to be a slaughterhouse.
And that was a good song.
It became a seedy roadhouse in the 20th century. Bobby and others claim that it's massively haunted, owing to its murders, suicides, and dark practices over the many years.
And even possessions as well.
One story tells of a dancer who worked at the roadhouse built there in the 1950s, called Johanna. She was reportedly pregnant at the time when she committed suicide by poisoning herself after her father had hanged her lover in the dressing room. She's still believed to haunt the location of her death. Another ghost is said to be that of Pearl Bryan, a young woman pregnant who was found brutally decapitated near the site in the late 19th century. Although the men who committed the murder were caught, tried and hanged, there are many stories that pertain to them being Satanists who threatened to haunt everyone involved in their trial. They now allegedly haunt the nightclub along with their victim, Pearl. An even more incredible claim is that of a gateway or a portal to hell hidden somewhere in the music world, which is supposed to explain the high levels of paranormal activity there. All these claims are controversial though, as I mentioned, as none of the reports of ghosts can be traced back to any official documentation.
There was one person who got possessed
that proved that they existed in life,
took over
corroborates their stories.
a human body.
It's thought that the majority of the spooky tales were fabricated as a sustained promotional publicity stunt by the owner Bobby Mackey to increase interest in his nightclub. What do you reckon?
It's
Number
something.
2. The West Virginia State Penitentiary.
Yes, West Virginia State Penitentiary.
A prison featuring in it somewhere.
I heard about it from, or I seen the episode of MTV's Fear.
And
it's back in 2001.
Replaced by another jail nearby. The West Virginia State Penitentiary today is a tourist location and training
I bet you number 1 is Easter State Penitentiary.
It was built in Moundsville, West Virginia, and held thousands of prisoners during its active years. Although it was considered to have fairly good quality conditions in the early 20th century, it slowly became overcrowded and murder,
in that place, there's a sugar shack,
and riots became much more commonplace.
And then the hole.
In fact, 36 murders were committed there, including the notorious
That's all I know,
of R.D.
by far.
Wall in 1929, who was stabbed repeatedly to death by a gang of inmates with blunt homemade knives. Adding to the atmosphere of violence and death, official records state that nearly 100 men were executed at West Virginia State Penitentiary. That's about 2 a year until the state outlawed the death penalty.
Wow.
The most common method was by hanging up until 1949, and the public were able to attend many of these. In fact, one larger inmate was gruesomely decapitated by his own weight when the trapdoor was released while he was being hanged.
Damn.
The rest of the executions were carried out in the electric chair called Old Sparky, which, in a cruel twist of fate, had actually been designed by an inmate at the penitentiary at the time. All this death often attracts stories of paranormal activity, and indeed people and researchers flock to the prison for tours of its dark, violent cells. Among the most common of the ghostly reports is the legend that the prison is built on a Native American burial ground. In fact, this story was around even in the 1930s when the prison was still in its heyday. Other stories told by the guards include countless ghostly prisoners who had previously lost their lives there, unexplained voices and spooky noises, and areas of extreme cold known as cold spots throughout the complex. The most disturbing repeated report is that of a shadow man that lurks in the forgotten corners of the penitentiary with some unknown dark purpose.
Here.
Definitely a scary location that I am not visiting.
Yeah.
Number 1. Franklin Castle.
What?
I've saved this one for my number 1 spot because
not Easter
of its very
State?
prolific and detailed ghostly
Franklin's
history.
Castle.
Franklin Castle is a mansion built in 1881 by a German, Hannes Tiedemann. He moved into the property with his wife, Louisa, and together they had a son and a daughter there. Unfortunately, the family began to suffer a huge string of bad luck. In 1881, the Tiedemann's daughter, Emma, died horribly of diabetes at only 15 years old.
Wow.
Shortly afterward, Hans' mother died in the house. Over the following few years, the Tiedemanns quickly had and lost 3 more children, which attracted suspicion. Hans decided to overhaul the mansion to make it more castle-like as a distraction for his grieving wife Louisa, with gargoyles and a ballroom, and during this time he
to make it
allegedly
look like
created
a
many
real
secret
castle.
rooms,
Oh,
hidden
wow.
passages and panels to access them.
Wow.
Louisa died of liver disease in 1895 and Hans died 13 years later of a stroke.
Oh, damn.
However, during his many years living in the house, he was rumoured to have murdered several children and other young people. One story states that he hanged his niece from the rafters in the house after finding her in bed with his grandson.
Oh.
And another claims that Hans murdered a servant girl, reportedly his mistress, after she rejected his affections.
Wow.
He tied the girl up, which apparently strangled her, and she died there in one of the bedrooms. After the house had gone to the German Socialist Party in 1913, many stories claimed that these new owners were actually Nazi spies who were gunned down in a secret room deep within the castle, further adding to the building's death toll. With this violent and disturbing history, it's no surprise that ghostly activity has been rife in Franklin Castle for years. The most popular legend is that of the woman in black who roams around the mansion's upper floors, often sighted staring out from the tower window. Could this ghost be that of Louisa Tiedemann? Stories of ghost children have been told about the house even since the 1930s. One nurse who was taking care of one of the owners at the time recalls that she would lie awake at night hearing the terrifying sound of a young child crying, despite there being no children in the house. Similarly, the children of some later owners in the 1960s asked their mother for an extra cookie to take back upstairs for a little crying girl that they had met. The mother never found a crying girl.
Well, of
These
course
children
not.
are thought to be the Tiedemann children who all met grisly ends. Between these stories came more reports of organ music, ghostly footsteps, voices and noises floating down from the upper floors, and crying. The mother of the children who befriended the crying girl requested a priest exorcise the house. He actually refused, but informed them that there was definitely an evil presence and that they should leave.
Wow.
The mother then turned to a group of psychic researchers who couldn't help her and all fled the house in fright.
Wow.
These events kept on for decades and the Franklin Castle kept changing hands as people moved in and left again quickly. It still stands to this day.
So that's something that nobody should ever live.
Family home.
That should be...
I just wonder if the ghostly Tiedemann family will haunt the new occupants, as they have done for nearly a century.
Wow.
And that's it from all top 5s for this week. I know I missed out such classic places as the Amityville house and others, but I wanted to highlight some perhaps lesser known haunted locations with just as much ghostly activity.
Okay.
I hope you've enjoyed the ones I've put together for you.
I actually
Remember,
did,
we
to
all
be
have
honest with
differing
you.
opinions, so just be polite when you're discussing these in the comments. I don't like having arguments on the channel. If you'd like to subscribe, you can hit the subscribe button and you'll get a new video every Tuesday. Alternatively, you can just like the video, in which case that'll help me and help other people find the video as well. So, peace and love to each and every one of you, and I'll see you all next time on All Top 5s.
Wow. Now that was awesome. I knew certain ones that I remember watching from other ghost hunting shows. You know, Western State Penitentiary. I remember that place from a show called MTV Sphere. If you don't know what that show is, go look it up. It's an awesome show. Bobby Mackey's Music World. It's from Ghost Adventures. And then what was the other one? Oh, the not the penitentiary, but number 4. I remember that from, I think also from Most Haunted and Ghost Adventure. It was number 4. Like, I forget what is the name of it. And then the number 5, I think it's from Ghost Adventure. I'm not sure. I mean, most of these places I remember from ghost hunting shows and that, but I would have thought that Eastern State Penitentiary would be the number 1 because it's the most haunted prison in the world. Probably better than Western State Penitentiary, but no. Franklin House, if I pronounce it right, is the number 1, and I can see why it's the number 1 on the list. But anyways, if you guys and girls enjoy this video, give it a like. If you want more videos like this, hit the subscribe button for more videos, and don't forget to hit the notification bell for more videos to come. So, that's all the time I have of this video. My name is Sly. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy me reacting to 5 most reportedly haunted places in the US. And until next time, sleep tight.